Hello and welcome back to another Rant collection. Today, I have something a little controversial to say. In fact, I might have a few controversial things to say, so I'm giving you a warning. I'm going to be talking about furries, I might be talking about smut, and I have ADHD, so I might forget everything else that I'm going to talk about, so I'm not even going to say what else I'm going to talk about. But the very first thing that I want to talk about is I'm very introverted, and I've dealt with agoraphobia on and off throughout my entire life. And a lot of people will always tell me, oh, Aria, you need to go out to have fun, you need to go out to be interesting, you can't stay home all day, you're never going to entertain yourself, it must be so boring and lonely not really having any friends or going anywhere. No, you're wrong, because I just learned about the second and third ring from a furry on the internet. Now, I don't think that I can explain what the second and third ring is on YouTube. I mean, the furry did on the internet. Not to me specifically, but I watched a video on the internet of a furry, a VTuber furry, explaining what the second and third ring was. I didn't even know that there was a third ring. I just kept hearing things about the second ring and I was like, what the fuck is the second ring? So I looked it up, and then there was this furry and he explained it so perfectly. And yeah, so in conclusion, no, I don't need to go out to find interesting things to do or to have fun, because personally I think if you are a true introvert, you will have the most fun and entertainment and enjoyment just being home and being alone. Now that you've learned that I've learned what the second ring and third ring is from a furry, that brings me to my next topic, furries. If you've watched the show Beastars, a lot of people think that it's really weird, and I think a lot of people that think it's really weird and don't really like it or couldn't really watch the second season are people that are normies, and I really stand by that. But if you don't hate furries or you like furry culture, I'm not a furry, but I like furry culture and I always have really liked it, and I've always found it very entertaining and very fascinating, and I don't really think that people would look at me and think that of me, because I've noticed that a lot of people who are very normal and judgmental, and I don't know a better way to explain it, but there's a very specific type of genre of person out there that's very normal, basic, and judgmental. And I'm not saying basic is bad, but I am saying in the instance of this person that keeps coming to me is bad. But I've noticed based on the way that I look that the type of people that are normal, basic, and judgmental, and rude, and mean always seem to try to befriend me and always seem to try to talk to me, and because they think that I'm one of them. And I never know what makes people think that I'm one of them, because I don't think that I look like I have the personality that those type of people think that I have. I think that I look like I like furries. I think that I look like I like weird things, but I guess I don't, because then every single time I let a little bit of my true personality show when I post about like, oh, this furry looks super cool, or this cosplay looks cool, or like this anime, or oh, or I'm reading AO3, then they unfollow me and they think I'm really weird. Which is fine, because I'd rather be weird and be myself and be free and be cringe than fit in with a bunch of people that I don't like. But I always just think it's interesting how those type of people always try to befriend me, and then I just realize, whoa, we're nothing alike, and I don't know why you thought that we would be alike. Because I feel like a lot of other people, when they try to make friends with people or people try to make friends with them, they always get along and they always click really well. Because I feel like people, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like people sort of like look like their personality, but I don't feel like I look like my personality. I really want to be friends with a furry. I really want to be friends with a furry. I have never worn a fursuit. I don't feel like a furry, although I feel like a lot of people who are furries aren't people who like think that they are animals and want to be an animal, but they're just people who like dressing up in fursuits, and I sort of look at it as like cosplay. And one of the things I love about the furry community is that it's always been so known that it is very accepting of like LGBTQ people, queer people, and trans people, and things that other communities were never that accepting of. And I think that's one of the reasons why the furry community was so hated, is because they were so accepting. Maybe that doesn't make sense. maybe I'm not making sense, but I would love to be friends with a furry in real life and go to conventions with them. I just feel like every single furry that I've ever been mutuals with or seen on social media has just always been so kind and accepting that I just have such a good image of furries in my head, and I just feel like we would get along so well, and I feel like those would be the type of people who wouldn't judge me about the weird little quirks that I have, whereas a lot of other people that I've tried to befriend I feel like would. Does that make sense? Anyways, I don't accept furry hate in my life, and I feel like a lot of people hate furries, but I'm never gonna be one of them. Controversial take number 2, stop writing Nanami Kento smut where he has a breeding. That man does not want kids. That man does not want kids. He wants nothing to do with kids. Do I think that he would be very sweet around kids? Absolutely. I don't think Nanami is a bad guy. I think Nanami is a good guy. I think he would be very nice around people that he hates. But one of the things that I don't understand about the JJK fandom with Kento Nanami, which I kind of understand but I don't understand, is that people headcanon him so hard as somebody who wants children, and not just one children, but wants a bunch of children and has a breed. And I literally don't see it. I see it in the sense that I think that a lot of women want Nanami Kento to be the father of their children. So I'm like, okay, you want him to be the father of your children. That makes sense. He's a good guy. He would be a good dad. But Nanami Kento canon, and I know it's a headcanon, but I feel like people view it so passionately as a headcanon that they almost view it as canon. But like, it's so hard for me to find any fan fiction or SMUT of Nanami that doesn't just involve a bunch of kids and him wanting kids, and it's stressing me out because I'm like, I don't want kids, and I don't want to read about him wanting kids, and I don't even think he would want kids. So the fact that there's just like so many fan fictions about him wanting kids, it doesn't make any sense to me, because first of all, I'm going to explain my reasonings as to why I do not think that he wants kids ever. He hates working, but he has to work, and things are expensive, and if you know anything about Japanese work culture, it's horrible. And I think you only get 1 day off a week instead of 2 days off a week like in America. And I think that he's just so drained and tired from working that if his wife had a kid, he would be like, oh my god, I have to work more. I have to work more to save up for college fund, to save up for a good school, to save up for good doctors for my wife and my kid. That's exhausting. And he would probably be such a good guy that he wouldn't want his wife to work. So then he would be like having to be making so much money for all 3 of them and more kids, because people always headcanon him as wanting a bunch of kids. And also, he was a sorcerer, and do you not remember that his friend, when he was a teenager, died? I feel like he's so protective over kids that he would not want to bring a kid into this world because he would think that it's too dangerous, especially with sorcerers around and all these like magical things around. I think he would think that it's way too dangerous, and then he would also be like, oh my god, but then my kid has to grow up to work just like me, and then they're working and they're working and they're working, and then if he has a son, he's gonna be like, oh, but then my son's gonna be so drained because he's gonna have to work and work and work to support a wife and a family, and he's just gonna think that society is so horrible that it's not the type of world that he wants to bring a kid into. Let alone 1 kid, but more kids, absolutely not. So when everyone's just headcaning him as being the type of guy who's like a big family man and wants like 5, 10 kids, well, not 10 kids, but like 1, 2, 3, 4 kids, I just think that it's insane. I'm not saying that people aren't allowed to have those headcanons or write that type of fan fiction. I don't know, I just always get the ick when it's so hard for me to find a fan fiction of Nanami where that isn't involved. You know what I mean? But yeah, I really need someone else to agree with me, because I feel like everybody else is just like, Nanami would want kids. Nanami would be a family man. He would love that. He would have a breeding tank. No. No. If you want to imagine him like that for your own personal pleasure, absolutely. But in reality, he wouldn't be like that. He wouldn't be like that. I don't know. I feel like I care too much about this topic, and I care too much about how I don't know. I think I've thought about Nanami so much that I have like such a clear picture in my head of what he would be like in person, that when anybody else like thinks of him as being different, it kind of stresses me out a little bit, which is weird because even though I do have a crush on Nanami in anime, I don't in person, like in a real life situation. Another unpopular opinion, everybody wants Nanami. Everybody wants to date Nanami, everybody wants to marry Nanami, everybody wants him to birth their kids. I love him in anime. I think he's very attractive. Every time I see him pop up on my screen, something weird happens to me and I start hyperventilating, and then all I can see is Nanami everywhere for hours, and I save every single edit that I see of him and repost every single edit that I see of him, and every single picture that I see of him on my Instagram I save and repost it to my story, and I send it to myself just so I can keep it forever, and I screenshot it. But in person, I would not want to date Nanami. I think that we would make a very boring couple. I think that we both hate working, and I think that he's a little quiet and he would want someone who talks a little bit more. And even though I know I'm talking a lot in this video, in person, I don't know. There's something about it that I just don't think that we would be very compatible, and I think that we would be boring. And I think that everybody else thinks that they would fit really well with Nanami, but I don't think that I would fit really well with Nanami. So it's really interesting because I don't think that I would fit well with Nanami, but for some reason I care so much when people's headcanons differ from my own. Because I don't know, I care about him a lot, but I don't want him. I want him, but I don't want him. Do you get it? I don't know, maybe the author of Jujutsu Kaisen had some information about Nanami in a manga that I didn't read, or something online talking about how Nanami wants kids that I just didn't see, and that's why people have a headcanon about Nanami and feel so strongly about it. But the only thing that I saw is I'm pretty sure that the writer of Jujutsu Kaisen did confirm that Nanami wants a wife, and I do see that. I do see him really wanting a partner and someone that he can spend his time with and take care of, but I just don't see him wanting kids. Yeah, what are your thoughts? I'm not gonna agree with your thoughts if your thoughts are he wants kids, but you're free to comment them. This brings me to my next unpopular opinion. So Horimiya, the anime, the shoujo romance anime, I absolutely love that anime. I think it's so good. It's so short, and so many romance animes are, but it's so good, and I love rewatching it, and it's so funny, and I love that they were together for most of the anime. I feel like a lot of animes, the characters, they're just sort of leading up to them being together, and then they're only together for the end. But one of the things that I really loved about this anime is that they were together for basically the whole anime, and I really want to read the manga. I haven't read the manga, but one of the things that I don't necessarily, okay, I consider myself someone who is woke. I am very, very left-leaning, always have. But there's something really interesting about a lot of what I've been seeing on the internet about Hori that I don't agree with, because there's something on the internet, at least what I've been seeing, that people hate her for that I love her for. So, you know how Hori has a degrading? There's so many people on the internet that I've seen and they're like, when that happened in the show, I had to stop watching it. I couldn't watch it anymore. That was so offensive. That was so bad. That was so wrong. And they're like, I turned it off. That was offensive. I can't believe anyone would write about that. I thought that it was so interesting, and I've never seen any anime character ever explore having that sort of interest. Things that I really, really liked about the dynamic of her having that sort of like thing for degradation is that a lot of times when I watch anime and there's two couples together, a lot of times there will be a girl who's like sweet and innocent and smart, and then there's this guy who degrades her, but not in a good way, in a bad way, in a real way, not in a consensual way, just in a way where he's just a straight up asshole. But one of the things that I really liked about this anime is that Miyamura, he was very, 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 very sweet to her the whole anime. He cared about her so much, and it was so cute, and he was so sweet to her the whole entire time. And the only time that he was saying those things to her or doing those things to her was because she asked, but it wasn't things that he actually felt or actually thought. And I really liked the dynamics of that. And that also brings me to another unpopular opinion, is that I don't know if I'm just crazy or if it's true, but I feel like the younger generation, like people my age and younger, are so vanilla ? And I don't know if it's a straight thing. I'm not saying that I think by any means that I'm super freaked out or anything, but when I see certain freaked out things portrayed in media or I hear people talking about them, I don't look at those things as if they're wrong. I'm just like, oh, I might not be into that, but I think it's interesting, or I'm neutral to it. I'm not looking at it in a way where I'm demonizing it. And I feel like a lot of people now that are my age and younger, like in their 20s and younger, when they see anything that's remotely kinky, they look at it and they're like, oh my god, it's not vanilla, so it's wrong. And I don't think that's always the case. And don't get me wrong, I definitely think that there is a conversation to be had about how certain kinks can be toxic, and how certain kinks can be toxic, not to everybody, but just to certain people in certain situations. And I think that's a perfectly fine and okay conversation to have. But I think when people just demonize every single kink and every single thing that's slightly freaky, it's just weird. And it really just feels like everybody's just moving back into purity culture. And I feel like a lot of people around my age just sort of, and around 2020, I feel like people just sort of moved so far to the left that they sort of like turned around and went back to being conservative. And that didn't happen for me. Like, I've always been somebody who's been like very, very left leaning, and I didn't grow up that way. I was never taught to be that way. That's just sort of like how I am, like as a woman and as a woman of color and as somebody who grew up queer, that I'm just gonna naturally be more left leaning, obviously. And I would hope everybody like me in my situation would be the same. But I also see a lot of people my age talking about like how anybody who looks at NSFW art, like how, you know how like Nanami Kinto, some people will draw NSFW art of him, or people will draw art of him like shirtless, and I'll see some of these people my age or younger be like, oh my god, that's so wrong, how dare you think that way about an anime character, that's so disgusting. And I'm like, are you okay? And that brings me to like how people are just like oddly vanilla and puritanical now. But I talked about this on TikTok before, how a lot of people in fandom spaces are just becoming more and more puritanical. A lot of people took it the wrong way. A lot of people were thinking that I was saying that being a person who is an adult, who's into characters who are very young, is okay. And I'm like, why are you thinking that I'm meaning the worst thing ever? Because I'm actually scared. Because people are like, oh, so you think it's okay if you have a crush on Anya from Spy X Family if you're 40? No. What I meant by that was, when I made that post, was what I was thinking in my head was because I was seeing so many people on the internet, any single time somebody, God forbid, shipped a queer ship, or was like, oh, I think Baku Deku is cute and I like them together, or oh, I shipped this ship that's not canon, people were like, how dare you, and you're ruining fandoms. And I made that post to be like, guys, you're being weird, you're being Puritan, you're acting like people can't have queer ships, you're acting like people can't have headcanons, you're acting like everybody has to like be like so strict in their fandoms, and that's weird. I'm not saying that people have to, you know, be into like the worst things ever, because obviously there are certain things that are wrong, but yeah, I just think that everybody's just becoming more conservative, oddly, and I don't like it, and I want it to change. And that also brings me to another unpopular opinion, which is Ozempic. And Ozempic, I'm scared that this is going to be an unpopular opinion. I don't know my audience. This is me specifically talking about people who take Ozempic, like social media influencers and celebrities, and they're taking it specifically to have a certain body type and not taking it for any medical health reasons like diabetes. So people who are taking it for reasons to lose weight, I literally think that everybody who's doing that is just paying to have an ED. I do. And nobody can convince me otherwise, because I was looking at Ozempic, I thought that it did something special. I thought that it did something way more than it actually did, but what I really learned was that all it was just an appetite suppressant. And I also learned that it can boost your metabolism, but I don't really understand how that works if it's also an appetite suppressant. I understand how that can work in people who have problems with eating too much or people with diabetes, but I don't understand how it can also boost your metabolism if you're somebody who's already a very healthy weight and you're just using it to basically starve yourself. And I don't think that it's healthy, and I think that the rise of Ozempic has made people not care about body positivity anymore. And what I've seen a lot of is people basically just think that thin means healthy. And what I mean by thin means healthy is, I'll see people on the internet calling a size 6 big. The size 6 is a very normal size. It is not big, it's not overweight. I don't know, it just seems like ever since Ozempic became popular, nobody cares about body positivity anymore. And I feel like whenever I talk about body positivity or anybody else talks about body positivity, the first thing that they think is, oh, body positivity, so you mean people who eat way too much and they're binge eating and they're being super unhealthy, and you think that that's body positivity? No. And I don't know why that's always the first thing that pops into people's mind, is when you say, oh, I support body positivity, they think that you're supporting people who are being really unhealthy and binge eating, and people who are, what is it called? There's this like weird fetish where I think it's called a feeder, where people will watch you to overeat and gain a lot of weight, and people like automatically think, oh, that's what you're supporting when you support body positivity. And no. And I think people who are fat phobic think that, and it doesn't really make any sense to me. But body positivity basically just means that you don't think that thin is healthy for everyone. You don't think that a size 2 is healthy for everyone, and you're just supporting people being their version of healthy, and everybody's healthy body looks different. I was gonna go into a whole rant just explaining what body positivity meant step by step, but I feel like if you don't get it now, you're never gonna get it. But I just feel really bad for the young girls who are gonna see all of these celebrities just act like being anything bigger than a size 2 is horrible and demonizing it. And I think that we're really just gonna fall back into the early 2000s ED culture, and it makes me really sad. And I hope that one day it changes, and I would love for us to just all accept our bodies as is. And it also brings me to another really confusing mindset that I have, and another confusing mindset that I have is that although I am very against Ozempic and I'm very for body positivity, and I think that we should all accept ourselves as our natural selves, our natural bodies, our natural faces, as long as we're being healthy and not like under eating or overeating and like doing really dangerous things for ourselves, I think we should all just love how we look naturally. I'm also not against body modification such as plastic surgery, which is really weird because in a certain way I am, but also in a certain way I'm not. And in the way that I am against it, I'm against it and people doing it for societal reasons. I think that there are a lot of people who have ethnic features such as ethnic noses, and they will get plastic surgery to fix it and make it look more normal as in Eurocentric, and they'll be like, oh, it was such a big insecurity that I had and now I'm happy and super confident with myself, which is good that you're happy and confident with yourself, but the reason that you did that is because of the beauty standards, and a lot of people don't always necessarily understand that, and they're not always conscious of that and the reason that they did that. But I think that when people do body modifications like plastic surgery, it shouldn't be for society or to fit into Eurocentric beauty standards. It should be for yourself. And I think body modifications that aren't really for society are more alternative body modifications, and more alternative body modifications such as like stretching your ears, or like getting, I don't know what it's called, but like you get your tongue cut in half and then you have like your tongue split in two. I think that looks really cool. Or like getting like tattoos or face tattoos, or I can't think of anything else at the moment, but like more alternative things, because that's not the beauty standard and you're going against the norm, but you're doing it because that's how you feel beautiful and that's what you think makes you look beautiful. Like I've had so many people be like, oh, it's not 2020 anymore, why are you wearing eyeliner? And I'm like, I will wear eyeliner until the day that I die, because I'm not doing it for anyone else, I'm doing it for myself. When I don't film videos, when I'm just at home, when nobody's looking at me, I will have eyeliner on. I take it off to go to sleep, I take it off to shower. That is it. I love eyeliner and I don't care what anybody else thinks about it. So I definitely think that people should be doing more body modification specifically for themselves and not for beauty standards. But then it's also complicated because then it's like, but because sometimes people aren't always aware that they're doing it for beauty standards, and then also when people are doing it sometimes for beauty standards, it still can make themselves feel better about themselves. And I think feeling better about yourselves is good, and it's hard to just tell people to just be positive about yourself when society is telling you that you're ugly, because I struggle with that, and that's never going to go away. No one telling me I'm beautiful is going to make that change. So I don't know, it's hard and it's difficult, and I could talk about it for a really long time, but I do happen to be losing my voice a little bit right now, and I think it's like 6 a.m. right now and I haven't went to bed yet, and the storage on my phone is going to shrivel up if I don't end this video now. So Thanks for watching, and comment your unpopular opinions down below. I think I've come to a conclusion that people who love Levi Ackerman in a romantic sense have a degrading kink. Not giving. Receipt. I saw one of my mutuals do this and I thought it would be really, really fun. This person writes X-Reader fanfic. This is who the X-Reader fanfic is about. I want to do that again because that scared me. Okay, I like this answer better. This is who's reading the X-Reader fanfic, but they don't know that Endeavor wrote it. Honestly, she totally reads AO3 at night when she's not doing her little villain work. This person has a Dr. Pepper obsession and they hide their Dr. Pepper cans under their bed so nobody else sees because they're embarrassed about it. Fair. This person is the first one of their classmates to elope and get married. Honestly, I kind of see that. He's really sweet. I could really see him not wanting a wedding because he's introverted and then eloping. This person is in a polyamorous relationship secretly. With who? This person got Endeavor's AO3 account reported and banned. This person is secretly a furry and the whole entire class is gonna figure it out after they graduate college. Honestly, yeah. This person got their driver's license revoked because when they first drove their car, they got into a car crash and totaled their car. Oh, this person is goth. Goth on the down low, but goth. Yes! This is bad. This person ships All Might and Endeavor together because they want them to work it out. Oh, honestly, I could see that. This person is only a hero for the money. Not a hero, but if she was a hero, she would only be a hero for the money. This person's a lesbian, but they haven't admitted it to themselves yet.